No me hables como si me tuvieras lástima, he shouted, coffee splashing across the counter. Everyone stared, except Nia, whispering through shaking lips. I just said Buenos días, Alejandro. Now let me tell you how this incredible story unfolded. Subscribe, share your heart in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from, because your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. The morning rush at Rosie's Diner on Sunset Boulevard always hit like a tidal wave. The hiss of the griddle, the smell of burnt toast, the crackle of bacon grease, the sharp ring of the entry bell. It was chaos Nia Thompson had learned to move through like choreography. Order up, table 7. Hank, the cook, barked from behind the counter. I'm on it, Nia called back, her ponytail swaying as she balanced 3 plates on one arm. Her shift had started at 5:30 a.m., and already her feet ached inside cheap sneakers. But exhaustion was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her sister Jade needed new school shoes, and rent was due on Friday. Nia's tip jar wasn't just spare change, it was survival. Still, she smiled. She always did. Customers remembered her for it. That waitress with the big heart, they called her, never realizing how much she faked that cheer. That morning felt ordinary until the door opened and in walked a man who didn't belong. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, though the California heat was creeping past 80. His hair was slicked back, streaked with gray at the temples. There was something weary in his eyes, a kind of elegant misery. He paused at the door like he was deciding whether to stay or flee. He sat at a corner booth, removing his sunglasses with slow precision. His movements were too deliberate, too careful. Nia noticed he kept glancing around like he didn't trust the place, or himself. When she approached with her notepad, he avoided her eyes. Morning, sir. What can I get started for you? He stared blankly, blinking. Breakfast. He hesitated, searching for words that refused to come. His accent, Spanish, thick, rolling, clipped every English syllable. 2 eggs. Cooked. The sun? Sunny side up? She offered softly. He nodded, relieved, though the tension in his shoulders never eased. See, that. She smiled gently. You got it. When she walked back to the counter, she caught a few customers whispering, snickering. Someone muttered, Guy sounds drunk or something. Nia's chest tightened. She hated that kind of mockery. People didn't understand what it meant to be lost in another language, another country. From the kitchen window, Hank leaned over. What's his deal? No deal, Nia said quietly. Just hungry. Half an hour later, the diner buzzed louder. Orders stacked up. Nia darted between tables with trays clattering. But when she passed the corner booth again, she froze. The man, his untouched food now cold, was gripping his phone, face twisted in frustration. He was trying to pay online, muttering in Spanish, eyes glistening with anger and confusion. Sir? She asked softly, stepping closer. He didn't look up. No funciona. His voice trembled. Nothing work. I just want... He gestured helplessly toward the plate, his dignity fracturing. Something in Nia stirred, an ache she recognized. The look of a person pretending they weren't falling apart. She took a careful step closer. Señor, she said gently, switching tongues with surprising fluency. ¿Está bien? ¿Necesita ayuda? Sir, are you all right? Do you need help? His head snapped up. Shock flickered across his face, followed by something else. Relief. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The diner noise faded around them. You speak Spanish? He asked in disbelief, his accent thicker now. She nodded, smiling faintly. Un poquito. Enough to make sure you get your breakfast. His lips parted, but no sound came. His eyes, sharp, proud, and suddenly human, met hers for the first time. "Gracias," he murmured, his voice breaking slightly. Later that morning, Nia found herself glancing at his booth more often than she wanted to admit. He ate slowly, deliberately, as if tasting food for the first time in weeks. When he finally stood to leave, he placed a crisp $100 bill beneath the empty coffee cup. Nia blinked. "Sir, you overpaid." He hesitated at the door, glancing back. "No," he said quietly. "You see me." Then he left. The bell above the door jingled as the sunlight poured in behind him. For a long moment, Nia just stood there, the word "see" echoing in her chest like a prayer she didn't know she needed. That night, she told Jade about him as they sat in their small South LA apartment. "He looked like he lost everything," Nia said, flipping through her tip money. Jade, half listening, shrugged. "You always say that about someone. You see sad people everywhere." "Maybe because they're everywhere," Nia said softly. When her phone buzzed, she glanced down. Unknown number. A text in broken English. "Gracias, Miss Nia. For say hello." Her heart thudded. She hadn't given him her number, but she realized she'd written it on a takeout receipt earlier that morning for a catering order. He must have found it. She smiled despite herself. "De nada, señor," she texted back. Have you ever said something small, just a few words, that changed the course of someone's day without even realizing it? Please tell me in the comments how one simple act of kindness stuck with you. 2 days passed before he came back. It was a Tuesday morning, the kind of gray California dawn that looked tired before it even began. Nia was refilling sugar shakers when she saw him again, standing outside the diner window like a man debating whether he deserved to step inside. He wasn't wearing his suit this time, just jeans, a white shirt, and a faint look of humility. When the doorbell chimed and Alejandro Castillo walked in, something inside Nia softened before she could stop it. He nodded politely when their eyes met. "Miss Nia," he said slowly, his accent curling around each word like smoke. She blinked. "You remembered my name. Hard to forget. Someone who speaks to ghosts." She frowned gently. "Ghosts?" He gestured around at the empty diner. "Everyone here, they eat fast, talk loud, no look up. Like ghosts. You looked." Nia didn't know what to say, so she smiled, motioning him to the same booth. "Coffee?" He nodded. "Si. Black. No sugar." As she poured his cup, the hum of the diner faded into background music. Country tunes, forks clinking, the hiss of the coffee machine. He stared at the steaming mug like it was the only thing anchoring him to the earth. "You from Spain?" she asked softly, polishing a cup. "Yes, Madrid." He smiled faintly, eyes drifting to the window. "Too much noise there. Here's quieter. I like simple." "Well, this is as simple as it gets," she chuckled. "Rosie's Diner hasn't changed its wallpaper since the 90s. He chuckled too, though the sound carried a sadness behind it. When she walked away to deliver another order, a woman at the counter whispered, "That's the guy who left the big tip, right? Bet he's one of those tax-evading millionaires hiding from something." Nia shot her a look. "Or maybe he's just a guy who likes breakfast," she said flatly. The woman rolled her eyes, muttering, "Girl, open your eyes. People like that don't end up in diners unless something's broken." The words stuck to Nia's ribs longer than she wanted to admit. When the rush slowed, she found herself drawn back to Alejandro's booth. He was scribbling something on a napkin, sketches of a small house by the sea. His hand moved with the grace of someone who'd built things before. "You draw?" she asked, peering over curiously. He nodded. Used to design buildings, houses, hotels. He hesitated. Now, I don't. What happened? He paused, eyes dimming. My wife. She loved the ocean. Died last year. After that, I stopped building. What's the point of walls without laughter inside? The air between them went still. Naya swallowed hard, the ache in his voice cutting too close to her own unspoken wounds. I'm sorry, she murmured. He looked up, meeting her eyes. Don't be. You didn't take her. There was no bitterness in his tone, just the flat truth of a man who'd already lost the worst thing he could. Later, during the lull before lunch, she found herself sitting across from him. She shouldn't have. Hank would scold her. But something about him made time pause. She told him about her sister Jade, about juggling double shifts and school bills, about her mother's passing when she was 17, leaving her to figure out the world alone. Life doesn't stop because you're tired, Nia said quietly, stirring her coffee. Alejandro nodded slowly. And money doesn't fix what breaks inside. Their eyes met, two souls stripped of pretense. For a while, neither spoke. The rain began tapping lightly against the diner windows. He started coming by every few mornings after that, not to eat. Sometimes he barely touched his food, but to sit, talk, and listen. Nia found herself waiting for him without realizing it. Some mornings she caught herself fixing her hair before her shift. They traded stories, his in fractured English, hers in patient smiles and warm silences. He told her about his villa in Spain, the vineyards, the gala nights that had once defined him. I had friends, he said one morning, many friends, but when money falls, so do they. She laughed softly. Guess you finally found out what poor folks already know. That earned a real smile. You are not poor, he said firmly. You are alive, more than anyone I know. His words lingered long after he left. By midweek, something unspoken began growing between them. He'd wait for her shift to end, sometimes walking her to the bus stop, never flirting, never crossing lines, just a quiet companionship that felt safer than either expected. But on Friday, something changed. As they stood outside under the pinkish Los Angeles dusk, Alejandro pulled a folded letter from his jacket. From Madrid, he said, offering it to her. Old business partner, bad man. He sends papers, ugly things, lies. She frowned. About you? He nodded. Yes, online already. People will read. Say I stole money, cheated company. Is it true? No, he said sharply, then softer. But truth is not what people love. They love scandal. Naya studied his face, the tremor in his hands, the fear behind his calm. You're worried people here will believe it. He exhaled shakily. I am worried you will. Her heart caught. Alejandro. Before she could say more, a customer shouted from the door, pulling her away. When she looked back, he was gone. That night, lying in bed beside her sleeping sister, Nia replayed his words over and over. I am worried you will. She'd seen too much ugliness in people to know when someone lied, but Alejandro's pain didn't feel like a lie. Still, the doubt it planted would soon test both their hearts. Have you ever met someone whose pain mirrored your own? Someone you barely knew but instantly understood? Please, tell me in the comments. Do you believe two strangers can heal each other's wounds without even meaning to? By Saturday morning, everything had changed. Nia walked into Rosie's diner, half expecting to see Alejandro in his usual corner booth with that soft, uncertain smile. But the booth was empty. Only the faint echo of yesterday lingered, the way he'd said her name like a secret. She tried to shake the feeling that something was wrong. She refilled ketchup bottles, smiled for customers, ignored the whispers. Then, halfway through her shift, the whispers turned into something sharper. "Girl, have you seen this?" Her coworker, Jasmine, slid her phone across the counter. The headline on the screen made Nia's stomach drop. "Disgraced Spanish tycoon Alejandro Castillo faces fraud allegations in Europe. Missing millions. Possible exile in the U.S." The photo beneath it was unmistakable. Alejandro, looking stern, proud, caught mid-stride outside a courthouse. The diner buzzed louder. Someone at a nearby table murmured, "Knew he looked shady." Another chimed in, "And she's been hanging around him all week." Heat rose up Nia's neck. The eyes of half the diner seemed to follow her. She forced a smile and whispered, "People got too much time online." But her hands trembled as she poured coffee. When Alejandro appeared hours later, he looked different, disheveled, restless, carrying the kind of exhaustion that seeps from the soul outward. As soon as he entered, the room fell silent. Forks froze midair. He walked straight toward her counter, voice low but urgent. "You saw it?" Nia nodded slowly. "Yeah, everyone did." He hesitated, searching her face. "You believe it?" Her throat tightened. She wanted to say no, wanted to tell him she knew who he really was, but the question was loaded, heavy with the weight of every time she'd trusted the wrong person before. "I don't know what to believe," she admitted quietly. The words hit him like a physical blow. "You don't know," he repeated, his accent hardening. "You think I am thief, liar." "I didn't say that." "But you think it." His voice cracked. "You look at me now like everyone else." The customers pretended not to stare, but the tension in the diner was electric. Jasmine whispered something under her breath. Nia ignored it. "Alejandro, please," she said, lowering her voice. "It's just, when people talk, it's hard not to." He slammed his palm against the counter, cutting her off. "No me hables como si me tuvieras lástima." The shout ripped through the room, and in that instant, the story's beginning looped back to its haunting center. Coffee splashed across the counter. Plates rattled. Nia froze, trembling. "I just said Buenos días, Alejandro," she whispered, echoing the memory that had once connected them. But now it sounded like a plea. He stared at her for one long, unbearable second, eyes wide, face torn between fury and heartbreak, then turned and stormed out into the California rain. The diner fell into stunned silence. Jasmine muttered, "Girl, you're lucky he didn't throw that cup at you." Nia didn't respond. She stood motionless, watching the rain smear the window where he'd disappeared. When she finally moved, her hands shook so badly she dropped the rag she'd been holding. Hank tried to lighten the mood. "He'll cool off. Rich guys always do." But something in Nia's chest said he wouldn't. That night, Nia sat on her couch with the lights off. Her phone glowed in the darkness. Dozens of unread notifications, links to the same article, comments from coworkers, customers, even strangers. Waitress caught with millionaire fugitive. Typical. Girl gets played by money. Should have known better. She threw the phone aside, pressing her palms over her face. She'd spent her life trying not to believe what people said about her, about girls like her, about what they deserved. And yet here she was, replaying every moment with Alejandro, wondering if she'd been blind. Then she remembered his eyes when he'd said, "You looked." That wasn't the face of a liar. It was the face of someone who'd been looking for a reason to be seen. She closed her eyes and whispered into the dark, "I'm sorry." Days passed. Alejandro didn't return to the diner. Nia checked the door each morning without meaning to, her chest tightening with each empty booth. Rumors kept swirling. The manager told her to keep her head down. But how do you keep your head down when your heart is somewhere out there, walking through the rain, thinking you betrayed it? One evening after work, Nia found herself wandering downtown, near the oceanfront hotels where tourists gathered. The sunset painted the sky in orange and rose. And there he was, sitting alone on a bench near the pier, coat-soaked, watching the waves. She almost turned around, but something stronger than fear made her step forward. "Alejandro," she said softly. He didn't move. "You shouldn't be out here like this," she added. Finally, he turned his head. His eyes were red, tired. "I came to America because I thought maybe here people would see more than my name. But it is same. I am headline, not human." Nia bit her lip. "I never meant to hurt you." "You didn't," he said hollowly. "You just stopped believing." The words gutted her. She wanted to reach out, to explain, to tell him she had believed, just not enough to fight the noise. But before she could speak, he stood, gave her one last look, and walked away down the pier, disappearing into the blur of people and lights. That night, Nia cried for the first time in months. Not because she'd lost him, but because she'd let fear make her small. She realized that kindness had once made her brave, and that she'd let the world's noise silence her again. And somewhere across the city, Alejandro packed a single bag, ready to leave Los Angeles. Neither of them knew that this wouldn't be the end. Have you ever let fear or public opinion make you doubt someone you cared about? Please, tell me in the comments. Do you think trust can ever be rebuilt once it's broken? It had been 3 weeks since the outburst. 3 weeks since Alejandro Castillo vanished from Sunset Boulevard. No texts, no calls, no $100 bills under coffee cups, just absence. Rosie's diner felt quieter without him, like a radio tuned slightly off station. Nia didn't even realize how often she looked toward his booth until she found herself setting down 2 menus by mistake every morning. Customers came and went. Life trudged on. But her laughter had dulled. Her eyes didn't linger on sunrise the same way. One Tuesday evening, the California rain returned. Soft, steady, cleansing. The kind of rain that smelled like renewal. Nia was wiping the counter when the bell above the door chimed. She didn't look up right away. "Sorry, we're closing soon," she called absently. Then she froze. Because that voice, rich, accented, hesitant, answered, "I know, but maybe. One last coffee?" She turned. Alejandro stood at the door, drenched from the rain, holding a small paper folder against his chest. His suit was replaced by a simple gray sweater, his eyes tired but gentle. Her breath caught. For a moment, neither of them moved. Finally, she whispered, "You came back." He nodded. "I didn't want to leave like that." The diner was empty now, the neon sign humming faintly against the wet windows. Nia poured 2 coffees and slid into the booth across from him, heart hammering. "I thought you were gone for good," she admitted. "I was," he said quietly. "Almost." He set the folder on the table, pushing it toward her. "But then, I remembered what you said. Buenos días. You spoke life into me that day. I couldn't leave without saying thank you." Nia hesitated before opening the folder. Inside were several documents, foundation letters, contracts, and a newspaper clipping. Her eyes widened as she read the headline, "Castillo Foundation donates $2 million for women's education in Los Angeles." Her mouth fell open. What is this?" He smiled faintly. "My way to make things right. People can call me thief, liar, anything they want, but they cannot say I never gave back. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked up at him. You didn't have to do that. He shrugged softly. I did, because you reminded me I'm still capable of being human. And the foundation, it says here. She paused, reading the line aloud. Scholarships for working-class women pursuing nursing or social care, beginning with one recipient, Nia Thompson. Her voice broke on her own name. Alejandro, He reached across the table, resting his hand gently over hers. You said life doesn't stop because you're tired, so don't stop now. Go live the life you deserve. For a long moment, the only sound was the rain whispering against the glass. Nia blinked back tears. I should have trusted you, she said softly. When the stories came out, I let fear talk louder than my heart. He smiled, not bitterly, but with quiet understanding. You are human. Fear talks loud in everyone. She laughed through a shaky breath. You're too forgiving. I learned from you, he said gently. Silence settled again, heavy but peaceful this time. Will you stay in L.A.? She finally asked. Maybe, he said. Maybe not forever. But I will stay long enough to see you start school, to drink one more coffee here, to say Buenos días every morning until you tell me to stop. Her lips curved into a tearful smile. I don't think I'll ever tell you that. Later that night, as the rain eased and the neon sign flickered off, Nia walked him to the door. Outside, puddles glimmered under the streetlights. She handed him an umbrella, but he shook his head. I like the rain. It feels like a baptism. She chuckled. You and your metaphors. He grinned, then turned serious. Nia, I don't know what will happen next. Maybe the papers will keep writing, maybe not. But when they talk about me now, I hope they remember one thing. What's that? That once in a diner on Sunset Boulevard, a black waitress looked at a broken man and spoke his language, and in doing so, gave him back his life. Her throat tightened as he stepped closer. You make everything sound like poetry. Maybe because this, he gestured between them, feels like it. Without thinking, she reached up and brushed a raindrop from his cheek. It wasn't romantic in the cinematic sense. It was something deeper, sacred. Two souls recognizing the miracle of being seen. Buenos días, Alejandro, she whispered. He smiled, eyes glistening. Buenos días, Nia. The next morning, Rosie's diner buzzed again with its usual chaos. Coffee brewing, bacon sizzling, sunlight pouring through the blinds. But something was different. In the corner booth, fresh flowers sat in a small glass vase, a gift from Alejandro before he left town for a few weeks. Beside them, a folded note. You spoke kindness into a stranger. Now go speak healing into the world. AC. Nia tucked the note into her apron pocket, feeling her chest fill with something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. As she poured coffee for a new customer, she smiled wide, voice bright and sure. Buenos días, señor. How are you today? The man smiled back. Doing all right, ma'am. You? Nia looked out at the California sunlight slicing through the window, the world alive again. Better than I've been in a long time. Do you believe one act of kindness can save a life, even your own? Please tell me in the comments what you'd say if you could give someone a Buenos días moment today. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If even a single moment, a look, or a word touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what part made you feel the most. Your words, your support. They're what keep this family of stories alive. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. The next story is even deeper, more powerful. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. Click the video on your screen. Your next story begins there.